had just moved into a little ranch house in the suburbs. Storybook neighborhood, quiet, friendly neighbors, picket fences, the whole 9 yards. Suffice it to say that this was supposed to be a new start for me, a recently single dad, and my 3-year-old son. A time to move on from the previous year's drama and stress. I viewed the thunderstorm as a metaphor for this fresh start. One last show of theatrics before the dirt and grime of the past would be washed away. My son loved it anyway, even with the power out. It was the first big storm he'd ever seen. Flashes of lightning flooded the bare rooms of our house, imparting unpacked boxes with long creeping shadows, and he jumped and squealed as the thunder boomed. It was well past his bedtime before he finally settled down enough to go to sleep. The next morning I found him awake in bed smiling. "I watched the lightning at my window," he profoundly announced. A few mornings later he told me the same thing. "You're silly," I said. "It didn't storm last night. You were only dreaming." "Oh." He seemed somewhat disheartened. I ruffled his hair and told him not to worry. There should be another storm soon. Then it became a pattern. He would tell me he watched the lightning outside his window at least twice a week, despite there being no storms. Recurring dreams of that first memorable thunderstorm, I figured. It's easy to hate myself in hindsight. Everybody assures me there's nothing I could have done. No way I could have known. But I'm supposed to be the guardian of my child, and these are useless words of comfort. I constantly relived that morning, making my coffee, pouring milk over my cereal, and picking up the newspaper to read about the pedophile local authorities had just arrested. It was front-page stuff. Apparently, this guy would select a young target, usually a boy, stake out their house for a while and take flash photos of them through their window while they slept. Sometimes he did more. My stomach sank as the connection was made. At the time, it was merely something from a child's imagination. In retrospect, it is the scariest thing I've ever heard. About a week before the predator was caught, my son came up to me in his pajamas. "Guess what?" he asked. "No more lightning at my window." I played along. "Oh, that's nice. It finally died down, huh?" "Nope. Now it's in my closet. I've yet to see the photos police have collected." I don't try to run home every time I see a thunderstorm on the way. In fact, I'm the sort who would rather not be home during a thunderstorm. When this happened, actually, I was living in a college dormitory. It was my sophomore year of school, and I was rooming with a good friend named Peter that I had made during my previous year. So we got along great. I just don't want anyone to think that there was anything at home that kept me from going back. No, I just really like being out in the storm. And no, that doesn't mean I like being rained on, because although it likely doesn't bother me as much as it might bother other people, I don't particularly care for it either. What I do like is being at a cafe, bookstore, hell, even a Walmart during a storm. When I got out of class, I saw the sky was very dark. The pressure was dropping, and I could tell that there would be quite a storm on the way. I opted at that point to head on over to a bookstore coffee shop that I mostly like to study in. I figured most students would be headed back to their dorms and the place would be empty. I was definitely right about the place being empty, other than 2 employees, one on the bookstore register and the other at a barista. There was only me and one person in the place. It wasn't a big store. It was a little place. There was a table right by my window that I put my stuff on, and I could watch the storm from there. I barely made it before the rain began to fall, and it fell hard. I was working on my laptop, running some statistics through SPSS and really having a calm, nice time. It was quite after a bit of work that some movement outside caught my eye. Looking out of the window, I was surprised to see my dorm roommate outside in the rain. He didn't even have an umbrella, and he was soaked from head to toe. He was walking along the opposite side of the street from me. He stopped in front of a shop and then looked back and forth a few times. After that, he turned and walked back the way he came. I found it weird, but wasn't really sure what to think about the whole thing. Maybe he just got caught in the storm and figured that he was already soaked, so he might as well go about his business. Maybe he turned around and headed back to the dorm. I don't know. About half an hour, I saw him again. This time, he continued walking in the direction and didn't turn back. Maybe he had forgotten something the first time. I'm not really sure. However, the fact that he had been walking around in the rain for such a long period of time without an umbrella had me a little concerned. I got up, walked to the door of the bookstore cafe, opened it and looked for him. I didn't see him anywhere. I sent him a text message as soon as I got back in the store, but didn't really expect to hear back from him. I let him know that I was in the cafe and wondered what he was up to, walking in the storm. If he was soaked to the bone, then it was pretty unlikely that he would be able to text on his smartphone. I put it out of my mind. After a while, the storm died down a little. When it stopped raining, I went and headed back to my dorm room. The sky was still dark and it was obvious the storm wasn't over, but I felt getting back to the comfort of my room. I was also curious as to what was up with my roommate. When I got back to the room, the door was unlocked. I immediately thought that meant my roommate was in there. However, he wasn't. It was very odd that he had left the door unlocked. I've never known him to do that, but everyone makes a mistake every now and then, right? As I was sitting there at my desk, I got a notification for a text message. I looked at my phone and saw it was Peter. The message was for me not to come back to our room because he had a girl over there. I found the message to be pretty chilling. It was so odd that I got up and locked the door. I also put a chain on it. I went back to my desk and looked at the phone. I kept wondering how to reply to the message. It was so weird. I guess I wanted to know what he was up to, so I replied that I wouldn't come back until he told me he was done. I don't know why, but I figured he was up to some sort of game and I wanted to see what. About half an hour later, the doorknob moved. Immediately I got up, crept to the door and looked out of the peephole. Some guy I'd never seen in my life was trying to get into the room. I went and grabbed my phone in case I needed to call campus police. I heard a key slipped into the lock and this person attempted to open the door. Thank God I had put the chain on. The very moment the chain restrained the door, it quickly closed and I heard whoever it was actually run down the hallway. The whole situation was too weird and I called campus police. I tried texting Peter several times. I never got a response. He never came back to the dorm either. Eventually, a missing persons report was filed. This happened 5 years ago and neither me nor Peter's family have heard anything about him. All we had to go with was his bizarre behavior in the storm and a description I had of the man through the peephole. No one had keys to the room but me and Peter. So whoever that man was, he had gotten Peter's key, also his cell phone. Whatever he was coming back to the dorm room for, he was trying to make sure I wasn't there. I've never seen him again either. I do miss Peter quite a bit, but I also wondered if I would have disappeared too if I hadn't been so nervous that I put the chain on that door.